This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and yes, we have two half phones here. No, put them together, you got a whole phone. Obviously not. These are two flip-style folding Android phones, and you said you wanted a Smackdown, so you're getting one. This is the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5, and this is the Moto Razr Plus, also known as the Razr 40 Ultra outside the United States. And we're going to compare them now. All right, the claim to fame with both of these flipping phones is that they now have large cover displays. No more little LCD strip kind of thing going on. The whole cover is a display, so yay, go them. Let's talk about what's the same first. We don't have to go into that stuff as much. Obviously, they're around the same size. They both have the same design concept, and in fact, they have the same weight. Snapdragon inside, both of them, but different generations. We'll talk about that too. And of course, AMOLED or OLED displays, which every higher-end smartphone has. And speaking of higher-end, both of these start at $999, not including any trade-in specials and deals that carriers might offer and all that sort of thing. And they both have dual rear main cameras. So you got a main and an ultra-wide camera on both of these phones. When it comes to the design aesthetic, in part this will be your preference as to which you like better. Samsung offers a whole lot of different colors. If you order from them, there's some more color options besides those you'll find in stores. And Moto has some more zingy colors, like their magenta-y one that's very T-Mobile-esque, very bright. And the finish on the Moto is either frosted glass for the back section when you have it folded, or you can get it with that vegan leather if you go for that magenta-y looking one. Samsung's doing their usual thing. It's glass and it comes in pretty colors, and you have very straight sides on it. They both have aluminum frames. Samsung does the straight-sided thing, which I think looks really pretty, and it's been distinctively their look for now we're up to the 5th generation, where Moto has a bit more curve to the sides, which honestly feels easier to hold in hand and better in hand and a little easier to pick up. Also more grippy because of that frosted glass on the back, but aesthetically speaking, it's also up to you as to which you like better. When it comes to the outer displays, I would say, now software is another category, so keep that in mind, but I would say just when it comes to the outer display alone, Moto is the winner. Higher resolution. You're looking at around 748 by 748 pixels on the Samsung versus a bit over 1000 by 1000 pixels on the Moto. So higher resolution, sharper display, also a little bit bigger, 3.6 inches versus 3.4. Also, Moto goes for that really cool contemporary looking thing where the cameras are cutouts in the display, so you can extend the display. It's actually up to you. You can control that with a little grabbing of a toggle point, whether it extends all the way to the bottom and engulfs the cameras, or if you wanted to clip off above, whereas Samsung has that kind of file folder cutout thing going on there. Also higher refresh display on the Moto outside, where you're just sticking with 60 Hertz all the time, not even variable refresh for the Flip 5. Too bad about not variable refresh, because it might help with battery life a little bit when it comes to cover screen power consumption. While Samsung does offer always on display for the cover, though, Moto does not. This could lead into battery life things, which we'll be talking about really soon. But first, let's talk about those inner displays. 6.9 inches for the Moto versus 6.7 inches for the Samsung. Similar resolutions on these. So you just get like 2 more lines of text if you're looking at a web page or something like that on the Moto. It's not huge difference, but a little bit bigger, more exciting maybe when you consider the fact this is a folding phone that gets really tiny and goes in your pocket. The crease on the Samsung is more visible for those who hate creases. You can also feel it more with your finger, so there's that. They both have the fold flat design now with the teardrop inside, so the display does a teardrop sort of thing. It doesn't have to bend as acutely as it used to on the Samsung phones. In terms of durability, Moto has done pretty well historically with the durability of their phones, despite some early on really scary design choices where you could almost pick the display up off the frame of the phone. You can't do that anymore. Anyway, very similar designs at this point now. I would expect similar longevity. Both have the usual plastic screen protector over the flexible glass layer on the phones. In terms of prettiness of both the inner and the outer displays, Samsung wins. A little bit more vibrant, a little more in-your-face contrasty, in part because Samsung always offers that vivid mode, which is the default, where Moto just has the natural mode on. Also, Samsung runs their displays a little bit cooler, which means the whites veer toward being blue-white instead of white or yellow white, and that can make colors seem to pop more. I tend to even it out and reduce the level of blueness, because if you're a photographer, if you're a video editor, or you're an artist, you actually, like me, you'll be a little bit bothered when your whites aren't white, when they're too far in either direction color wise. But anyway, I would still say the Samsung looks a bit more vibrant. When it comes to performance, you're looking at Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 on the Moto Razr Plus and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 on the Samsung. Samsung always goes with the latest gen CPU in their phones, which is a good thing to do. Now, both of these are $999, and for that price, you'd be fair to expect the latest CPU on the market, which is the Gen 2. So Moto, what up with that? I mean, it's slightly disappointing. You know, it's really a psychology and a marketing thing. The performance difference and the battery life difference between these isn't that huge. Yeah, the Gen 2 is a little bit faster, but it's not that big a thing, but you just don't feel great about it. Both of them have 8 gigs of RAM. You can get them with 256 gigs or 512 gigs of storage. So we have parity there. Nobody got a micro SD card slot anymore. When it comes to the cameras, well, you know, that's not a strong point for Motorola phones in the past couple of years, and it still isn't now. Again, in terms of basic hardware specs, you're looking at something similar here with the main and ultra-wide cameras. The Samsungs are more predictable. Sometimes Motos can take, this phone can take a really pleasing shot. Other times the white balance is off, the exposure is weird. There's just lacking that consistency. So for those who really care or rely on your phone as being your primary camera, you'll get more consistency from the Samsung. You'll also get Samsung's signature, very saturated pictures and all that sort of thing, but you can edit those after the fact if you want to dial down the saturation, or, well, dial it up on the Moto, for example, which tends to go for more natural colors. But yeah, win for Team Samsung when it comes to cameras. When it comes to dust and water resistance, and nobody's perfect in this one, but with the Samsung we've been seeing IPX8. X means nada, and that pertains to dust resistance. 8 refers to the water resistance, which means you can actually, I don't want to do it, but you can actually immerse the Z Flip 5 or the Z Fold 5, you know, in clean, plain water, no salt water, no chlorine water, that sort of thing. And with the Moto, it's IP52. So that means that you've got splash resistance, basically. You got it beside the sink, it gets splashed on, whatever, it gets rained on, it's fine, do not immerse it. But you get dust resistance, that's the 5 in the number. And with folding phones, that's pretty important because, well, the hinge, that moving thing, can get particles inside. So I like seeing that. And since I know I'm probably not going to be dropping my phone in a tub of water, but I might be playing at the beach, I would go for IP52 rating over IPX8. In an ideal world, we could have both of them, maybe someday, but not yet. And last point, batteries. Got a 3700 milliamp per hour battery in the Samsung and a 3800 in the Moto, so really close there. And battery life, and this probably hinges on something to do with display, right? There's no always on display option, but then I have that turned off on the Samsung too, just to make it fair. But Samsung typically runs their displays brighter, which might be why they look a little better and a little zingier, so that can affect battery life as well. But the Moto is doing better for me in terms of battery life, by about 40 minutes of screen on time per charge. So that's significant enough. Again, probably due to the screen, but who knows what special sauce Moto did in optimizing it. Neither of these is anything to write home about when it comes to battery life. With moderate use, you'll make it through the day, but no more than that. But that's life with folding phones right now. Last is software, and this is also going to be somewhat a matter of personal preference. Some people have been using Samsung phones forever, and they just love One UI and what Samsung does with it. Other people are more of the Pixel, Moto, clean software crowd, or just tired of Samsung's duplicate apps and other things. I leave it up to you as to which you like better. I do wish Samsung didn't duplicate apps, even though sometimes there's something to be said for some of their versions of applications. Their Photos app isn't bad, for example. But I like what Moto did here, because it's not as plain Jane as the Pixel. There are more creature comforts and tweaks and all that kind of thing, but it's not so heavy, overbearing, and changing from the core of what Android is. So I kind of like that. When it comes to the cover displays and software, this is important here. Now, again, it depends on who you are. Some people buy a flip phone like this because they want to use their phone less. So just having widgets on the outside is about as much as you want. Other people like me kind of want a folding phone because I like a big screen phone, but I don't like how it doesn't fit in my pocket, for example. So I would go for the more power user Moto approach to what they're doing. The widgets are not as advanced and fancy. The calendar isn't as scrollable. Click on everything, see the details of your appointments, see as much weather data. You get weather on the Moto, but not as much stuff. Samsung spent a lot of time with it. It's sort of like their Galaxy Watch, only put on a cover screen. Whereas Moto said, okay, here's some things and some fun, cute games. And then you can, it's easy as going to one setting on the Moto, and then you can start running any app you want on the cover screen, which I find that I do a lot. I mean, I'm not going to watch YouTube on the cover screen, to be honest, or Netflix, which, you know, with Samsung, those are 2 of the 5 default apps out of the box. You can choose to run on the cover screen. God only knows why. But I do find it handy when I want to pull up my grocery list or my barcode to get into my gym and all sorts of things. Check messages and actually read the message and have a keyboard that actually matches whatever the keyboard I've picked for the inner display. With the Samsung, you have to go through extra hoops. You also get the Samsung keyboard on the outer display only. Besides their 5 allowed applications, you have to go to the Samsung Galaxy Store and download Good Lock and then Multi-Store, an extension for that, just to begin to run any application you want on the external screen of the Samsung. I find they work a little more consistently on the Moto, running any app on there, but most of them work fine on the Samsung. So clearly more widget-oriented, Samsung. Want to do absolutely anything you can imagine doing with your cover screen, it's going to be Moto. So there you have it. 2023 is flipping great to be a folding phone fan because there's more than one brand you can choose from in the United States. Now we got the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5 versus the Moto Razr Plus or Moto Razr Ultra, 40 Ultra, whatever it's called outside the United States. They're so close. You know, I know you watch these videos and you think, oh, they're afraid to say anything bad about any particular phone or anything like that. It's not that. These are so close that I myself am having trouble deciding which one because there's pluses and minuses for each one. They're both really pretty fine flippin' phones. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos. And thumbs up if you like this vid.